Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Face the Truth. This is a good one. I had such a great time talking with my guests, but before we get into that, I want to thank my sponsor, WACOM. They've been so generous as to donate a Cintiq for every episode of this podcast to one lucky artist, so thank you so much, WACOM. Things have been going okay here in Chicago. Been feeling a little bit like spring lately, which is nice, except for yesterday, the 14th of April. We got hit with a full day of snow, which was really weird, but I guess that was appropriate for the premiere of Game of Thrones. So yeah, winter is indeed here. I just finished a poster for an upcoming play in New York, something a bit different for me style-wise. I'll be sure to share that with you whenever I can. Also finished a movie poster recently, which is a lot of fun to do. It was a pitch for a poster, so not really sure if it'll actually be used or not, but it was still a blast to work on anyways. Currently, I'm working on my first cover for Mad Magazine, which is just amazing. It's a childhood dream come true. I'm having a blast working on that, and of course, I'll share that as soon as I can as well. My guest this week was so great to talk to. I've never met her before, but felt like we were able to really connect and had a truly genuine talk. She's a very talented photographer known for her photos of Barack Obama, Keith Richards, and Mick Jagger, Madonna, Chet Baker, Tina Turner, B.B. King, Keanu Reeves, Prince, Cyndi Lauper, and so much more. I'm pleased to welcome to you all Deborah Feingold. Cool. So I'm ready whenever you are. You ready? Yeah. All right, we're rolling. Thank you so much. Is it Deborah or Deborah?
Well, it depends who's speaking to me. You're a little young for Deborah. It's usually older people, but it's anything between Deb, Deborah, Deborah. Well, there's others I can't say, but yeah. You can,
all right.
I answer to all.
My mom's name is Debbie, and everyone calls her Deb. So
yeah,
but I just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Actually, the funny thing was the first time, like when I was writing you, I just assumed it was Debbie, just because I'm so used to that. And then when I was typing it out, my computer automatically typed Deborah, and I'm like, wait, and looked like, oh, I didn't want to mess that up. So, anyways, thank you so much for doing this. This is so awesome. It was really cool because you submitted a photograph for the Anita Kuntz podcast, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. No one's ever sent a photo before. And then I looked you up, and I'm like, holy shit, she's an amazing photographer. This is awesome. And so it's really a pleasure and an honor to have you on here. The whole thing with this podcast is really, I just want to interview as many types of artists, and not really even just interview, just talk with as many people as possible. It doesn't matter what art field, just to try to, get it as much art out there to as many people as possible, just because I think it's a beautiful, amazing thing, And to be honest, I'm not, I'm an oil painter, I'm a digital painter, and an illustrator. I don't know that much about photography. So that's another reason why I'm interested to talk to you, because I know there's a little bit more to it than just pushing buttons, right? You just push some buttons and you aim things, right?
Well, now, nowadays it actually is that simple. But it wasn't always that simple. A great deal of it was technically based. I'm a portrait photographer, and there was so many aspects of it. There was the technical aspect, in addition to all the psychological, social aspects of your subjects being right in front of you, as well as a space, the physical aspects of it. But the lighting was critical, and your cameras couldn't do what they do now, or your devices, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, when I interview now, they're like split conversations, because they'll be sort of old school, but then, the question always is, well, how did digital, or what about whatever? So go ahead.
Do you still work mostly analog with photography, or do you use a lot of digital now?
I just use digital, but I treat it as if it was film, because that's how I learned. And you had to be so thoughtful the whole way through.
Yeah.
So you can't just get rid of that. Those things are just a part of who you are. So the digital is really helpful because it lets you see it right away.
Yeah.
There was a lot of anxiety and guesswork which is gone now. And I'm grateful for that. But I make sure my exposures are right. You know, I use it as a helping tool, but I'm thinking as if it's film.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I do sort of the same thing because I paint digitally for most of my editorial illustration work. But you know, I'm traditionally trained and I do oil paintings for commissions. But you know, I prefer that if I can do that, just because that's just how I taught when I was learning. You know,
Right.
I taught myself, and but you know, the digital thing definitely helps because you can change things a lot quicker. You know, especially when you're working on crazy deadlines.
Right.
So man, it's just crazy because I looked through your portfolio. It's just amazing the amount of people that you've gotten to photograph, and I was wondering, like, just from the beginning, like how you got started in doing this. I mean, you've photographed so many, just like famous musicians and politicians, and another part of that question was, is it ever intimidating or just nerve-wracking when you know you're having to photograph someone that is like, you know, I don't know, like Jimi Hendrix or somebody, whatever, you know, somebody that's like, you're like, oh crap, that's so and so. Is that ever weird, or have you gotten used to it?
I think it got easier as I got older. Um, and it, it was I mean, a lot of the early musician stuff was done in analog. So
Yeah.
there was so many factors. You know, you didn't know what your images looked like till you got home and
Hmm.
sent a small piece of it to the lab. And then you you know, there was hints of going in the right direction, but it was pretty anxiety producing. I
Yeah, I can
think
imagine.
always, especially with color. But I was pretty nervous. You know, I just happened into this career, if you will. It wasn't something I trained for.
Yeah.
So that was, it wasn't like good and bad. It was, I didn't know if I was coming or going half the time. I was just going with it, if you will. You know,
Hmm.
it was the 70s. It was a very different time socially and politically. And, you know, just following the dream that we all had at that time.
Yeah.
Um, I'll give you a little backstory that I grew up in Rhode Island and ended up going to college in Boston and studying theater and communication. And I took 2 photo classes, but you know, I had learned how to use a darkroom when I was about 12. There was an enlarger in my basement that my dad had. So it was a hobby, but you don't really hear that word very much. But it was definitely a hobby that, you know, I brought with me everywhere I went. So I always took pictures. And I became a little disillusioned with college. So I worked in a camera store and had a dark room in my bedroom. Thinking now about those fumes, I don't know what I was thinking about. But so it was always a hobby. And then I graduated. I stayed in Cambridge, Mass, joined a photo co-op in 1973. You know, everything was sort of lived communally. And I got a job working in a prison for juvenile delinquents, and I taught photography there. And when I would come home at night, there would always be this same guy in the parking lot, and he was a jazz musician, and he had a crush on me, so he was purposely out there. I guess he knew my schedule. I guess that was stalking back then. Anyway,
I was just
it
gonna
was quite
say.
it was quite flattering at the time. I remember this was the 70s. You didn't think about that. So I ended up falling in love with him and started shooting some of his friends and some of the bands and just getting little gigs. And then I uh, ended that relationship, fell in love with another musician, different instrument. And, and then he was moving to New York because that was his next step. So I just came with him.
Yeah.
And we moved in the 70s. He had a friend that he went to college with that was living in New York and starting his own jazz label. So we each got our first professional work shooting Chet Baker. So that was
cool.
my very first photo shoot. And Scott Lee, he's a bass player, he went on tour with Chet. So that's sort of kind of just how it happened.
That's so interesting. And I had asked you through email just because I thought, I bet she must have known who my step grandpa is, Howard Johnson.
Yes.
And so that's just amazing. What a small world. So you photographed, did you photograph him in the band?
I photographed him for Musician Magazine for an upfront article, and I did it in concert. I never really met him. I was working for, well, I'm jumping way ahead, but it doesn't matter.
It's all right.
I was working for a music magazine as time went on, and I was the chief photographer. So we covered every type of music, and so I shot a lot of concerts, did portraits, all cool. Different types of music. I started just doing jazz, but then it expanded to everything, and then transitioned to Rolling Stone. And then that expanded into actors and actresses and writers. Mm-hmm. So it just sort of, I just put 10 years.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's very similar to me as well. Like you once you start getting a little exposure, certain doors open up, and hey, how about you get that person? They did this, So it makes sense. But it's amazing. I was looking through and just like your book covers too, because so many of those book covers I've seen. So it's just interesting. Like, oh man, she did that one, and you did one with Obama. Was that strange? I love to talk about that because it was a multifaceted shoot for me. So it was while he was still in the Senate, but he had just given the speech at the Democratic convention, I guess, and I'm blanking on it. But so the art director, he wanted me to shoot him with Chicago in the skyline of Chicago. And I just remember thinking, one, that's not really what I do, Yeah.
Place someone against something.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that when I thought of him. That's not what you think of. So I stayed in a hotel across the street from the lake, where you could walk out on a jetty and get the background, the buildings. Mm-hmm. But he came and so it was wheeling all our stuff out. But I also selected a hotel directly across the street. And at that point in my career, I knew I had to have a plan B. So in my little tiny hotel room, I set up a little studio. So we go outside. He's an hour late. Had he come on time, you would never have seen that book cover that you see. But because he came an hour late, the wind picked up, the sun came out. Even though we had shielded him, his eyes are a little lighter. He was squinting the whole time. And then a few frames later, the light stand fell into the water. It was so windy. So, and I wasn't connecting with him except for the initial, hello, everything's, la, 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 la. And then I'm struggling the whole time trying to get him to relax. I'm far away from him. I'm trying to get the background in. And it's just not how I work. And it was not appropriate. So I said to him after the light stand fell in, would you mind coming across the street with me to my hotel room? No, I just said to my, I wish.
Look, Deborah, listen, that's not inappropriate. Michelle?
Well, you can tell that obviously that wasn't in my wheelhouse to be able to do that. I wish it was. So he agreed, and we walked over But, there's a lot of pressure because I've clearly, in my mind's eye, I don't have anything from that. And that photograph, I am sitting on the edge of the bed, not the foot of the bed. And he is probably 3 feet in front of me. And that's all the room we have. And that's that shot. But
that's amazing.
But that was it. That's what it should have been. And that's what it ended up being. And by that point in my career, I had really learned, cover yourself. Cover yourself if it's a situation you're not comfortable in. And so for me, it was a great experience on multiple levels. And there's a personableness in there that is just plain and simple, I feel good about that piece.
Yeah, that's amazing. Another couple pictures too that I really was like, oh man, because I'm a really huge fan of the Rolling Stones. I love Keith Richards, and I saw the pictures. I shared the one picture of you guys together just because I was like, oh, Keith Richards. I'm just wondering, besides photographing them, did you ever get to hang out with them, or is it just like shooting pictures?
So it's mostly like shooting, but in that particular instance, his wife made us lunch.
Oh, that's cool.
And we all sat and ate. I don't remember that much about the shoot because the truth is, I shot it for a British magazine, great magazine called Mojo. Mm. And all I was supposed to do was have him hold a record that inspired him the most. Mm. That was it. And that's a really shitty assignment, And I had also, by that point in time, learned you got to walk away with something for yourself.
Yeah.
This is never going to happen again. And you're insecure because here I am, because I'm not a pushy I'm pushier now than I've ever been, but I think old age does that. You can be a little crazier. But what actually happened was, I didn't really remember, but I shot him without holding the record and holding it against that beautiful green wall. But I never really thought much about it because I think I associated holding the album. But while my assistants were breaking the lights down, I actually took a walk in his house and I found another room with a baby grand piano. And I kind of timidly went back and said, could I do one more photo? I don't know. I think that's on my website. It's a red walled room and he's sitting perched on the piano stool. So that was always my favorite image. But then when his autobiography came out, they bought that other image and I sort of rediscovered it then. The full body shot. Yeah, so it's kind of funny what happens.
Oh, so that's for his, was it called His Life or My Life or something like that?
It's the back. It should have been the front, but that's the back cover.
Oh, that's cool.
But I never really thought of it.
I have that book. I didn't know. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great book. That's an awesome book.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you understand him when he talked to you?
Oh man, I don't remember because the first half of it is holding up a frickin' album cover.
Yeah.
And making sure I've got it because at that point I'm shooting for my client. And sometimes I would say to a fault, I thought more about the client than myself, Yeah. And not anymore, but there were times when I was wanting so much, it was just insecurity. Would they be happy? Am I getting this right? And yet at the same time hating what I'm shooting.
Yeah.
But then, I got a beautiful shot. Yeah, we connected, but I was always quiet on those shoots, like sort of dry humor. But I think when you look at the people's expressions, you can kind of tell what I'm like. They look. I don't know. I'm making that assumption, but there's usually a nice connection.
Yeah, it's got to just be strange. For me, I've done I've painted a lot of people that I respect and look like I've painted a lot of celebrities or different people, but never in person. I've never really gotten to meet them. Only a few. So it's kind of strange because I've done work for Rolling Stone and I've always had that feeling while I'm working on a painting, like just I don't know if what they're gonna think about it. If you know what I mean. Like it's kind of a weird disconnect because I get an assignment from an art director to paint Gary Clark Jr. or something, and you don't know what they're gonna think about it. But it's got to be interesting, like being there, trying to actually capture an image, whereas I'm basing my stuff off of tons of other images trying to create an image. It's interesting though. But
Yeah.
it's like an art director's, kind of, hey, like you said, like we want a picture with him holding a record. You're like, okay. Like, that's just interesting because you have to try to make it work a little bit.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think what you do is so exciting. I mean, illustration and illustrators, it's a whole new world that opened up to me right before the election. And it happened on my Facebook feed. And I became, it was a really nerve-wracking time for everybody. But there was a side of me that felt like, I don't know, we seem to be pretty quiet about what might be happening next. And yet the only people I saw with a voice were these illustrators on my Facebook feed. They were the ones that were angry. They were the ones that were using the talent that they had to say something. And that kind of just turned my world around. I honestly, it was not that, I wasn't that I wasn't aware, but I don't think I looked at it or was affected by it. And so since that time period, as you can see on my website, I've been chasing them and photographing them.
Yeah.
In some ways as a thank you for what they do when others are quiet and continue to be quiet. And they come out with some of the strongest, amazing work. And I don't know what pushes me, but it's still pushing me.
No, that's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah. And I agree. It's the one thing it's really weird. And from my experience, it was very strange. Like just before Trump was elected, during like the debates and everything, I didn't think he was going to get elected. So I was really enjoying everything that was happening. It was so like entertaining, and just watching him debate Jeb Bush and everything. I'm like, this is so stupid. This is like a joke. And so like doing caricatures of it and illustrating it was a fun way to, show how I was feeling or what I was thinking about. Right. And then when it actually happens, the only good thing that I thought in my mind when he was elected was, oh man, I'm going to be so busy. I'm going to be doing so many Donald Trumps. This is going to be crazy. But you know what? I've done a handful of Trumps since he's been president. But it was crazy because I literally had that thought like, oh, this is the only good that's coming out of this is I'm going to be every week Trump drawing something, basically just capturing what's going on. But it's been weird since he's been president from my perspective. Like it's almost like people are pulling back and pulling away, and like, I don't know, there's even been examples that I've sent clients artwork like, hey, he just did this thing. Here's my idea. What do you think about it? And like, oh, we just want to kind of just stay away from that. And you're like, man, this is when we're supposed to be like going for it, Yeah. But
I hear you, and I actually feel it as well. It's going to change, but I think there's only so much for that the human spirit can take to some extent, and I think we're just regrouping. That's what I like to think. But I've expanded the group that I'm doing. It's not just anti-Trump. It's people that have done other kinds of work, work where there's a social consciousness to it. And it's just been fun discovering that. And
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That picture that you took of Anita was really cool. I was like, it was interesting too, just because like the lighting and everything, it just looks so almost like heavenly. There's like this kind of like just glow to it,
That's Anita. That's a remarkable woman who I feel really blessed to call her a friend, and her work is I'm not really, I'm insecure about describing art or whatever, but she's amazing. She's absolutely amazing
Yeah.
on all levels. And I don't use any lights for these shoots. So they're all, which can kind of kick you in the pants sometimes, but it's just, I don't know why I'm doing this, but it's all natural lighting. So she's almost like on her roof, and
Okay.
there's a lot of light coming in. And that was my favorite one. But yeah, yeah.
No, that's really nice.
Yeah.
At first, when I first saw I was confused at first when I opened it up.
I know.
I was like, wait a minute, this is a photo? Because now when people are doing digital paintings and stuff, sometimes it's hard to tell. But I was like, wait, this is a photo. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I am having fun with it because I'm treating it as if I'm in the dark room.
Yeah.
I don't shift things. I don't move. I don't know how to do it, thank God. But I do play with blacks, whites, contrast, middle tones. And I feel like I'm back in the dark room. And so each one I spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. But yeah.
Do you so because you're working digitally now, do you take like way more photos of your subjects now, or just
No.
Okay?
I never took a lot of photos. No, I don't. Yeah, maybe a little once in a while, but not so much. Not so much. Maybe 300, or I don't know. Maybe that's a lot. It depends where I am. Well, what I try to do is create little vignettes of each person and to find little stories to tell, and some work and some don't work. So then I go home and I figure out what worked. But I just I'll try 3 to 5 different little vignettes. It depends on some of the spaces, especially in this series, they're quite small. But when there's a lot of space, oh my God, I'm like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
Can I put you here? Can I put you there? Can I put you over there?
Yeah.
Harry Campbell, he just had this amazing space. And every floor we went on, I found something else.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was interesting. And his work is fascinating. And sometimes I find in this series, just the energy they give off begets energy. It feeds through, and there's a patience that when I would shoot all these celebrities and stuff, they weren't always very patient. And in the early work, a lot of those images, they were taken in music publicists' offices, and your challenge was to make it look like you had a legitimate photo session with them. So that was, so it's such a joy going into people's studios and spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool. I mean, that's I enjoy that as well. Like when there's certain artists that you can just see just the way that their paintbrushes are everywhere and everything. Yeah. It's like lived in, and this is like almost like a sanctuary,
Which
cool.
when I went into it, I did not expect this. I did not expect the environments to be so charged as they are. And I think that's what keeps me going. It's like, because again, I only bring a camera and 1 or 2 lenses, and that's it. That's just pretty gutsy, because some of these places are really dark.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of art studios are, mine's pretty much dark. I don't really have too many lights on unless I'm working on like a painting.
Yeah.
Then I've got my lights just blasting. But yeah, I think we like it in the dark a little bit.
I guess. Well, some of them are quite bright, but yeah, it really varies.
That's interesting. So you've what do you have any like what's been your latest thing besides are you still working on doing like photographing illustrators?
Yes.
Are you planning on doing like a book or something with that?
Well,
or like some kind of show?
I think that sort of like from the beginning when I said this career just sort of happened, I think I'm trying to just stay in that vein of just doing it. I have a feeling that, I mean, I have things that I'd like to do, but I want to really keep the focus on shooting and not, I mean, definitely not monetizing it. If anything, so my fantasy would be to have an exhibition with all these artists' work and my portrait, but it's about their work, you know.
Yeah.
But that's just a thought. But I think that to keep it really from my heart, I just want to keep doing this. I've done almost 40, and maybe after 60, I'll think about, you know, what's next. But I think it's important to just keep it pure and not goal oriented, but just, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to go back to 1976. Just do it, you know, just do it to do it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's not really what our culture says so much right now. You know, everything's very, you know, goal oriented or financially, you know, what can I make out of it? You know, what can I get out of this? I'm getting plenty out of it.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just trying to I'm going to go to San Francisco, and there's a group of illustrators out there. So I'm hoping to do that in May. And just keep doing it. And I don't know.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. You know, I just remembered I have to make a little announcement on here.
Cool.
And then I've got a couple questions for you too. But real quick, basically, the first person who can leave a response onto this this video or this podcast is going to win 1 free year subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud. So you just have to answer this question and then leave your answer in the comments under this video and email me as well at faceofthetruthpodcast@gmail.com. So the question is, who is one of Nicholas Urebe's instructors in art school who inspired him to be a painter? And also, what other well-known illustrator / fine artist went to school with Nicholas? So answer that and send your answer to faceofthetruthpodcast@gmail.com. So it's kind of a cool thing Adobe's doing. And so I had to come up with a way to get people to listen a little bit.
Sure. I think that's great. That's
so I have a question from Michael Crotty. And he said, what was it like photography? Oh, sorry. I mean, speak English here. What was it like photographing celebrities when you were first starting? And what period or era was your favorite to photograph? We kind of went over the first part, but.
Yeah. So I think the 80s were the most exciting.
Yeah.
That's I think that's when I did most of, you know, that was when I photographed Madonna. That's like the young Madonna, young Bill Gates, youngish David Byrne in the big suit, Tom Verlaine, just a real wide assortment of people. It was just a really rich period of time. And I think that's my favorite period of time. And also, you know, as a photographer who started out shooting music, I wasn't doing documentary style. I was doing portraiture. But those people that were shooting prior to me, Jim Marshall, people of that ilk, they were spending time. I mean, they were going on the road. They were hanging out. Their work is amazing, and it was very journalistic. But that started changing by the time I came in the mid to late 70s, and the music industry was changing, and it was harder to get access to people, and it was more publicity heavy. And a lot, like I said earlier, a lot of our shoots were waiting. I remember waiting my turn to go in to shoot James Brown, waiting in line with the writer, and that I could only shoot him during the interview. And one day I'm going through my old negatives and I see this picture of James Brown outside on the street. It's in my book, actually, where he's reaching his hand out to me. I had no memory of ever taking that. And I guess I followed him outside. Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is, it was like you just did what you could to make something feel more personable. And I think I got pretty good at that, because a lot of them, like I said, you have 15 minutes. And that was a skill that really has served me well, because a lot of those book covers, or the shoots later, they're in and they're out. You've got to know how to, put someone at ease in a way that is respectful and get the job done really fast, and maybe do multiple setups really quickly. And I did learn to get really good at that. But did I answer his first question? Because
let's
see.
Long ago. No, it's great. No, the first part was, what was it like photographing? Oh, I can't even speak.
I love that. I love that word.
Photographing.
Yeah.
What was it like photographing? What was it like photographing celebrities when you first started? We kind of talked about that.
Yeah, it was just, I was, as one would imagine, I was really anxious, Yeah. And the other thing I want to mention is I didn't go to school, so I was really kind of learning on the job, Yeah. That first assignment I told you about, Chet Baker, I didn't even know how to expose for color film. So I hand oiled the photographs into color pictures.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But man, that's crazy. So, just kind of were just thrown into that. Just had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Really quickly.
That must not have been stressful at all.
It was so freaking stressful.
Yeah. I can imagine. Jeez. Now, you mentioned something that made me wonder. This is so when you're doing these book covers, some of them seem to have whole idea planned out, how maybe props and different things. Is that something that someone already planned and you just have to come in and shoot it really quick, or do you kind of work on the ideas?
We created all those backgrounds. That was really fun, but that was right before ebooks were changing the platform, and we had budgets, $10,000 budgets, but you could always get people to do it for less because they'd get a great tear sheet. I mean, that's sort of the nature of editorial work. Everyone chips in for the better, and we can all use it. So we built the Oval Office for a woman for her book cover, but that's from scratch. There's no retouching in that. And I enjoyed that.
You guys had to actually build the set.
Yeah, we built the set. But
wow,
that was impressive. That was one particularly really cool art director that I did a lot of the sets for. And we had a run with that. But now you never get asked to do it, or they want to do it. Like the American Tantrum, that's a partial set. They didn't have budget to do or didn't want to have a budget to do the background, so that's photoshopped in. But that was fun. I enjoyed doing that.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think I know the one that you're talking about. What was that? Was that for who was? What was that book cover?
The one where we did the whole thing, or
the Oval Office.
So I did the Oval Office with an Anthony Atta, I don't know, a comedian who impersonates him.
Oh,
so we did a
partial.
We did a partial. Yeah. We didn't do the background. We did a partial. But the other one is, she's a very right wing.
I think I know it. Was it Megyn Kelly or something like that? I remember seeing something, but
no, I forgot. She's nasty, and thank God I went blank on her name because we don't even need to promote her. It's on the website. So I don't know.
But the Trump impersonator, was he doing his bit while you were trying to take photos?
It took them 4 hours to get him into costume, and he uses no prosthetics on his face, and he can actually turn his face into looking like him. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah. I don't think that book did so well, unfortunately.
He's a very good impersonator, though. That's pretty good.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy. really
That's
nice.
awesome.
It's when you do something and they work with you. You know,
Yeah.
that's why I liked building those sets, because once they get into character, there was fun, but there's you don't see too much of that anymore. The budgets have really changed, as we all know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to go there. So.
Let's see here. There's another question. So this is by Andre Kokimor. Of all the famous people you photographed, if you were to be stuck on a desert island with them, which one would you choose and why? It's an interesting question.
Well, I think there'd be many, but the first one that came to my mind was Jorge Ramos. He's Spanish um, news guy, like he's sort of like the equivalent of Anderson Cooper, maybe a little more serious.
Oh, okay.
Because if I had to look at anybody for a really long time, it would be him. And he's so smart and so
That's
just
funny.
wonderful. Yeah, it'd be something like that. Someone there was much to learn from and share with. It wouldn't be Keith Richards. No, sorry.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't think I would want to be stranded with Keith Richards on an island. If I could choose anybody, I'd have to think about that a little bit.
Right. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, that's pretty
Thank
funny.
you.
No, I would, of course, choose my wife. That's what I would choose.
Good answer.
Yeah. So I had a question that I'm blanking on it now.
I have that effect on people. Don't worry about it. It'll come back.
I know the question. So when you get asked to do like a project or an assignment, what I'm curious about is like the timing. So let's just say there's going to be a photo shoot for a book. Is it one of those things where they call you and like, hey, we need you tomorrow? Or do you have more time to plan, or is it just kind of just spontaneous?
So that's a really good question too. And I don't know how it is for other people, but it used to be you could get a call any time of the day. But now, especially with book covers, they're booked fairly, there's a lot of leeway. And also usually you have to, rent a studio, get a support team. But it used to be, I mean, I remember for a couple of decades, you were ready any time of the day to get up and go and do it. It was, maybe that was the 80s, I don't remember. But, you sort of learn to live that way. And it suited me. I liked it. I liked it because there was always a buzz. It was kind of addicting. It was very exciting. And I think I had a stomach ache most of the time. It was very nerve-wracking too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of like that for me. I'm always ready for any job, and usually the deadlines are like 1 or 2 days, and you have to like paint a cover.
I don't know how you do it.
It's crazy, but it's kind of gotten to the point where if I have more time on something, then I feel weird because I'm so used to like almost like that stressful panic rush where I have to like find as many references as possible, start sketching, get it approved as soon as possible so I can start painting.
Right.
And like a couple of weeks ago, I was working on a movie poster, which was really exciting and fun to work on. And then I had another a Broadway type play that I'm working on.
Oh, nice.
And so I'm working on both of those, and all of a sudden I get a email from Mad Magazine to do a cover, and I was like, as soon as I started reading, hey, you're interested in doing a cover? I'm like, oh no, like because I don't want to turn it down, but it's probably due like in a couple days. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to make it work anyways because
Absolutely.
And then I start reading it, and it says, oh, we don't need but until the end of April. I'm like, oh man, this is like no problem. I have so much time because for me it's like, that's like a lifetime to get it done. But I have been working on it, and I still have a lot more time, so it's really nice because I know it'll be awesome.
It's also very interesting if you think about it. So you gave examples as in the way they're advertising, if you will, in terms of the Broadway show and the movie poster. But it's such a different process because you sketch, you hand it in, you get feedback, you go back, and maybe that goes up and back. It's really different. Just one, you go in there, and you don't know if sometimes I don't even tell you what to do often. And it's such a different process. And I'm going nowhere with that, but it's just, I'm sort of fascinated by it, both being editorial, but the style and the approach being so incredibly different.
Yeah.
I could never do what you do.
Well, it's weird. It's weird because
I
sometimes
would feel so vulnerable all the time.
Well, yeah, it can be nerve-wracking sometimes because, for example, one of the jobs I've worked on recently, there was no idea at all.
Right.
And a lot of times there's some kind of an idea, but they had no idea.
Right.
And they gave me the script to read for this play, and I read. First of all, I don't have time to read 200 pages when I'm doing all these other things, and I have a baby to take care of and everything. But I'm trying to read through this script, and I'm not getting anything. No ideas, nothing's. And I was bored out of my mind with the script.
Oh shit!
And I was just like, I'm like, oh, what is happening? What can I do? So that was a hard process, and then I would try to bounce ideas back and forth. So before I could even get going on the final image, there was so much back and forth because. Does this idea work? No. Okay. Start over again.
It's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes it clicks right away,
Yeah.
And a lot of times art directors and editors already have like a set idea and they they know that you can pull it off. So, I don't know. It's interesting.
And it's also about like, that can work when you have a relationship with the art director.
Yeah.
And they trust you enough and you understand their vision, but it is challenging when they have no idea. That sort of happened to me last year where everybody will remain nameless, but it was supposed to be a book cover and the art director was so starstruck that she didn't art direct.
Oh,
and the
no.
subject didn't want to be photographed. So it was not a good situation for me to be in.
Yeah.
Because the art director didn't do her job and the subject didn't want to be there. And you know what? Maybe they should have listened to her if she didn't want it.
Yeah.
If she wanted to take her own photo of herself. I don't know.
That's got to be awkward.
That was very awkward. I was glad when the day was over.
Jesus.
And that's unusual. That
I mean that would be very uncomfortable. I have a funny thing that you might like be interested in, and then I can show you some art that people did of you. But a couple years ago, Adobe was celebrating, I think, 25 years of Adobe, and they had a commercial for for the Oscars. It was going to play at the Oscars, and it was going to be on the commercials on TV and everything. And it's basically playing Dream On by Aerosmith, and it's showing all this Photoshop and Adobe like images and artwork and different things that their product has created. And then when it gets to the part where he's like, dream on, they wanted me to do this like crazy, just awesome, exaggerated caricature of him, really realistically painted, but they wanted his mouth just huge. And when it got to that part, that was going to be the whole screen. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is such a great, fun opportunity. And so I worked really, really hard on it. I wanted to just try to capture that classic Steven Tyler, and then I was just so pumped about it. It's gonna be on at the Oscars, and I'm like, while I'm working it, I'm thinking, oh, Tom Hanks is gonna be sitting there, and all these different people, and they're gonna see that, and they're gonna laugh, and they're gonna be like, who did that? And I'm gonna be me, I did it, And I was like so pumped about it. And I sent it in, and Adobe loved it. They're like, oh, you knocked it out of the park. And I was so excited. I told all my friends about it. I told my mom and dad and my family, you got to watch the Oscars. This is going to be so cool. And then I get a call from Adobe. He hates it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
He hates it. Say that. And he doesn't like how you painted him. Yep. And I was like, what? It looks just like him. And I was actually I thought I was being nice to him. Yeah. Dude looks like a lady, okay? I was like, I was like, I was nice to him. I tried to capture that classic thing. And then basically they said, yeah, he's really upset about it, and he was offended. And I'm like, oh man, this sucks. I just felt like I got kicked in the stomach.
Yeah.
I just got done telling everybody I did this thing, and so I'm like, man, I was all bummed. And they said, you know what? Everyone loves it. We're actually going to buy some prints because we want to hang them around the offices.
Oh,
And then, and I still got paid and everything.
I
But they were
love it.
like, what we're going to do is, you know, we have to come up with a different image, and we're going to probably just do some photo manipulation or something. And we feel so bad, sorry. And they said, you can go ahead and share the image if you want, but you know, we can't use it.
Right.
So I was super bummed. I went to a friend's house and having some wine and just telling what's going on. And I didn't post it anywhere except for Instagram. I decided to share the image. I posted it, and like 2 minutes later, my phone rings. It's an art director from Adobe. Please take that off of Instagram right away. And I was like, what's going on? He's like, he just reached out to us and told us that he was so pissed off that we're not going to be able to use the song anymore.
Oh my
So
God.
somehow he saw my Instagram post, and 2 minutes later I'm getting called, and they're like, like they spent I don't know how many hundred thousands of dollars to use that song, and now he was threatening to take it. And I was like, and the guy was like, and be careful, I don't know if you should ever share it because he might come after you. And I'm like, what in the world? This is crazy. Yeah, but that's what they were telling me. Like, a week after the Oscars, I shared it everywhere.
Like, that's one of the best celebrity stories I've ever heard. And yet I knew you were going to say he wouldn't accept it.
Yeah, you know what's crazy about it too is a couple years after that. I don't know if you know what the Grand Palais is in Paris, but it's like basically the second largest art museum. And I got contacted, and they asked me if I would want to have my work shown in their gallery show. And they actually gave me the guest of honor spot, which I later found out, this is no joke, the same honor, the artists that had shared the same honor as me were Picasso and Matisse. And they hang your painting in the entryway of the museum, so when you walk in, you see it. I found that part after I was already in the show, and I was there, and I couldn't believe what I was a part of.
Wow.
The painting was the Steven Tyler painting. so thank you, Steven Tyler, because it's
that's
weird. It's interesting, small world, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it's a good story that you tell because people have these fantasies about celebrities, but in a lot of ways, you better make them look good.
Yeah.
And it's all biz for them. It's not like a social thing, you know, for the most part. I think it used to be. But, you know, I don't know how this applies to you at all, but I own all my film, right? From when I started to maybe mid-90s. And now young people shooting, musicians, actors and actresses, they don't even own their film for the most part. They can't resell it. They can't touch it. It's a different world. It really changed, you know. It's just our whole notion of celebrity in my lifetime has flip-flopped completely.
Yeah.
You know, but I love your story. And while you were telling it, I absolutely knew he would reject it. But I have a small story about him, which was in 1972. I had a boyfriend who, while I was in college, and one of his roommates was Steven Tyler's cousin. So I did a first try of a certain drug with Aerosmith. And then we ended up in New Hampshire at a roller skating rink where they were performing that very song.
Oh, wow.
So that's my short.
That's
and then
funny.
I ended up photographing him years later, only to find out that they were all high during the shoot. So I don't think there was any connection at that point between us.
Shortly after that happened to me, a good friend of mine who was in a band in Nashville was grocery shopping, and Steven Tyler happened to be grocery shopping, and he actually sent me a text and said, "Hey, your friend's here grocery shopping." It's pretty funny.
That's a great story. Thank you.
He's not my friend.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that.
It's funny, you know. The thing for me that's embarrassing is because I was so excited. I told everybody, and then it's like, oh no, now I got to tell everybody that it's not.
Yeah, but it's a story with a really happy ending.
So let's take a look at a bunch of artwork that people did of you, just because you'll get to have your Steven Tyler moment in a second, I think.
I'm sure. I'm not really good at looking at whatever.
Oh, it'll be fine. So I will share the screen in just a second. I just had like an observation though before we do this. Being a photographer, it's very strange. I didn't just realize. I realized it early on, but you've got no photos hanging anywhere.
I just moved in here.
Okay. Oh, okay. I was like,
but I have a John Cuneo on the wall that you can't see.
Oh, I love him.
I have one of his prints there, which he's amazing to me.
Yes, I love him so much. I love his work.
Here. Yes.
He is very awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna share the screen with you. So let me know if you see this.
Beautiful.
You see it? Okay. This is by Asmadi Abdullah.
Oh, thank you, Asmadi. That's lovely.
Yeah, it's always interesting seeing the different takes on from everybody, And this guy actually submits to almost every podcast,
nice.
and his style changes every time.
And is he in the States or outside?
I don't know, actually. Not some people let me know where they're from, but I don't know.
And do you know what medium it is?
I believe
they say?
No, this is a digital painting.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, most of what he does is digital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Cool.
Shows the angst. I love
it. This one is by Ray Shipman.
Oh, thank you, Ray.
That's
love
awesome.
The lips, Ray.
That's awesome.
You can see that gray's been washed away a little bit.
And this is one by Eugenio Candia.
I love it. I love this. These are so much fun.
Yeah, it's nice. I like giving, sending out the messages like, hey, anyone want to draw this? And you have no idea who's going to submit, what they're going to submit. Sometimes I get really weird images. So
yeah, that's really weird. Great. I love the bangs.
This one's pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
This is Leandro Capanema. I don't know if I said that right.
Leandro, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
You're like part cyborg.
I feel it.
Could you imagine if you could do that? If you could just take pictures with your eyes and that they actually were recorded onto your computer or something?
I love the body.
Interesting.
It's really great.
Yeah, there's almost like a movement there. It's just nice.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Pretty cool. Yeah, it is interesting. The face is very focused.
Yeah.
Very still, but the body has like this almost other dimension to it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Great.
This one's really cool. I like the style of this one. This is by Andre Kokum, or he's one of the ones that asked a question. Probably the one where I can't say photography, right?
Right.
But yeah, this is
Thank
a cool
you, Andre.
style.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
And this one is digital, but it looks like they scanned in a real piece of paper and then just painted on top digitally.
Right.
I'm assuming. I don't know. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
Or now that I'm looking at this,
yeah,
I think this is a pencil drawing on paper, and then they colored it digitally.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And this is an interesting take. This is by Jordan Martin.
I like that take, Mr. Jordan. That's really nice. I like the film frame around it.
Yeah. I love. He's submitted to a couple of them now, and he always has such an awesome style. It's very animated. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, very much.
I like it. This one is by Lars Eric Robinson.
Oh boy, these are amazing. I was so dreading this. I was scared. I'm glad I submitted the pictures I did. They really work well. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. And actually, this guy, he did a few different versions, and he kept updating it and fixing things. And then by the way, I can send all these to you as well. So
I was going to ask when we were done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And if you have their emails, so I can write them a note too.
Yeah, I can do that.
That's easy to do.
What I'll probably just do is forward their email with the artwork to you.
That's so cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I like the style of this one. I think you did a good job.
Really like it.
And this one is by Juan Gastelum.
Juan, thank you for that young, beautiful image. Wow.
That's cool.
I don't know if I was ever that pretty. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. That's not true. So this one, I think... It's
like pencil.
Yeah, I think it's pencil and something else, graphite.
Right.
And I think this is actually the last one. This is by Michael Crotty. This is pretty interesting, too.
Wow.
Overexposure. Little camera humor there.
Love it. We love overexposure. That's the key to photographing people over 30.
Fantastic. I need to learn that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
Oh, that was so nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Let me go back. There we go. We're back. Cool. Is this back to normal?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I could tell that you were a little nervous to see him.
Yeah, I was. That was really nice. Really enjoyed that.
But it's all good.
Yeah, really good.
Cool. So do you have any, before, we've been talking for a while. I don't want to keep you too long, but do you have anything else like coming up soon to promote or anything for people to follow?
No. I'll just be doing more of the illustrators in terms of things I really care about.
Yeah.
Brian Stauffer, I think that's how you say his name, and Ulrichsen, and Cuneo gives me tons of names of people that I may or may not know. So yeah, usually the people post them online, but maybe I'll share them too. That's it for now.
Yeah, it's really cool. That's awesome. And I love Cuneo's work, man. So he's hilarious.
Unbelievable. It can just make a bad day good.
Yep.
But don't tell him that.
No, it's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's and for me, this is a whole new experience that I'm trying out. I think you're actually, I think this is episode 22. So I've been doing it straight for 22 weeks. I just had this idea and I committed to it, and I'm just going to keep going until people get sick of me or whatever. I don't know. I'm just trying to get it out there. And so I really appreciate you agreeing to do it. And it's fascinating to me. I love hearing that your stories are really cool. So thank you so much for that.
So are yours. So thank you. It was a really nice conversation. And thank you for the drawings. You have some really interesting and talented fans and listeners or whatever. It was really great. Thank you. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, no problem. So have a nice. So you just moved in, you said, right? So you're going to be redecorating.
Well, it's a little out of the I have an apartment in the city, but we bought a little country house. So. Oh,
cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
well, nice. Good luck with the redecorating.
And where are you?
I'm in Chicago.
Oh, so I stayed at the W Hotel, and then it was the water right across the street from that, and those jetties is where that was. Is that where you're from, Chicago?
I'm actually from North Wisconsin, but I've lived in Chicago since 1996. So I've been here I basically, after I graduated high school, I came straight here, and I've been here.
Where did you go to college?
I went to the American Academy of Art, but I went when I was 26, and I was already working as a professional illustrator. So I went for a couple years, and then I was trying to raise a 1-year-old baby and go to art school and paint for Time Magazine at the same time. So I went for 2 years, and it was like too much.
Oh, cool.
And I just started focusing just on my work.
Good for you.
But yeah, so I've been here ever since. I live in Rogers Park, so I live pretty close to the lake, and recently relocated. I was even closer to the lake, but there was too many gunshots on a regular basis, So I moved a mile away, and there's no
Wow.
gunshots.
Good for you.
So
Wonderful. All right. Enjoy that baby.
for
Okay.
sure. All right.
All
Nice
right.
talking to you.
You too. Bye-bye.